Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take complex ideas, dense research, and try to give you the core insights fast.
And today, we're really diving deep into, well, modern existence.
Yeah, we're looking at the book, Start Making Sense, How Existential Psychology Can Help Us.
Our goal is pretty straightforward, right?
Right, figure out why life feels so anxious and maybe meaningless for many people today, even though, objectively, we've got so much progress.
It's a huge puzzle, and it boils down to a core idea in psychology. Our minds need things to make sense. We need meaning, stability, control.
It's like a psychological operating system.
Exactly. And when the world feels chaotic or unpredictable, that system flags it as a threat. Your brain basically goes on high alert, and that feeling, that's anxiety.
And those alerts are pretty much constant now, aren't they? The book draws this parallel to the mid-20th century.
Yeah, the original age of anxiety, World War II, the Cold War. Existential philosophy really took off then because people were grappling with huge, scary uncertainties.
We're kind of in version 2.0 of that.
You could say that. And we have the data to back it up. Take the World Uncertainty Index, the WUI.
Okay.
In 2020, with everything going on, pandemic, politics, it shot past 55,000.
55,000. What does that even mean in context?
Well, put it this way. That's more than double the uncertainty level measured right after 9/11.
Wow. Okay, that's staggering.
It really is. And you know what's driving it? It's the things we talk about all the time.
Climate change anxiety.
Definitely. Fears about AI taking jobs.
Yeah, that's the big one.
And just the intense political polarization. It makes everything feel unstable, like the ground is shifting under your feet.
It makes you feel like things are just spiraling out of control. Your personal control anyway.
Precisely. And that brings us to the central paradox. Because objectively, life expectancy is way up from about 68 in 1950 to 79 in 2021 in the U.S.
Incomes are up, people retire earlier.
Right. By all the standard measures, we should be happier, more content.
But we're not. Or at least many of us aren't.
Exactly. Because those objective gains aren't meeting our deeper existential needs. The need for meaning, for coherence, for connection, those foundations are eroding.
Okay, let's unpack that erosion. The book talks about 4 key foundations for a meaningful life. When these weaken, we feel adrift.
Vulnerable, yeah. Adrift is a good word. The first one is maybe the most obvious, interpersonal relationships.
Okay.
They're just more isolated. Think about something simple like family dinners. By 2022, the average American was having only about 3 dinners a week with family.
Only 3. Huh. And it's not just family, right? Romantic partners, too.
Same trend. One study compared 1975 to 2003. Married couples were spending about 9 hours less time together per week in 2003.
9 hours less. That's a lot of connection lost.
It is. But the friendship statistic really got me.
What was that?
The number of Americans who say they have 3 or fewer close friends, it increased by over 80% in the last 30 years.
80%. That's huge. Really does sound like an epidemic of loneliness.
It absolutely is. So that's foundation 1. Foundation 2 is community.
Right. This reminds me of Robert Putnam's Bowling Alone.
Exactly that idea. People are just less involved civically. Fewer members in the PTA, unions, community groups.
Those places where you used to connect with people outside of family and work?
Those third places, yeah. They provide a sense of belonging, of shared identity. Losing that is a big hit to our sense of stability.
Okay, so relationships and community are weaker. What's the third foundation?
Work or career. This used to be a major source of identity, right? A sense of mastery, stability.
Used to be.
Yeah. But now you've got millennials changing jobs much more often. The gig economy means more temporary work, side hustles.
Less of that long-term investment in one place.
Right. And even remote work, which has its benefits, means fewer of those spontaneous, regular social interactions you'd get at the office. That chips away at workplace connection.
Okay, so work is less stable, less connecting. What's the final one?
Number 4 is spiritual or religious connections. And the decline here is really stark.
Fewer people going to church or identifying with a religion.
Dramatically fewer. In 2020, for the first time, fewer than half of Americans belong to a church, synagogue, or mosque.
Wow.
And the number of people saying they have no religion, the nones, went from just 5% in 1972 to about 30% today.
30%.
And crucially, studies consistently find that non-religious people tend to report, on average, less meaning in their lives and lower well-being.
So it suggests that the structure, the community, the narrative that religion provided was doing important psychological work for meaning.
It seems so. So you put it all together. Fewer deep relationships, weaker communities, more fragmented work lives, less spiritual grounding.
The traditional safety nets for meaning are fraying.
Exactly. And this is happening alongside a global trend towards more individualism, which also correlates with people reporting less meaning. We're left trying to build that sense of coherence almost from scratch.
Which, ironically, is exactly what our brains are desperately trying to do anyway.
Absolutely. We're meaning-making machines, homo significativa, as the book calls us. We're constantly trying to make sense of things. It's like Albert Camus said about the absurd.
Right, the tension between our deep need for meaning
Mm-hmm.
and a universe that doesn't seem to offer it up easily.
Yeah. We live in this world saturated with meanings we create, but we're always aware deep down of that potential meaninglessness.
And to cope, we tell stories about ourselves, about the world.
Constantly. Jean-Paul Sartre put it perfectly. A man is always a teller of tales. Our life story isn't usually a fixed thing. It's something we improvise, edit, revise.
To make it feel coherent and make sense of our actions, especially in hindsight.
Precisely. And this need for a coherent story is incredibly powerful. So powerful it can actually shape our memory of reality.
How so?
Well, researchers have shown it's surprisingly easy to plant false memories. They've convinced people they vividly remember things that never happened, like getting lost in a shopping mall as a kid or even being attacked by an animal.
Seriously, people will just adopt that memory.
And elaborate on it. They'll add details, emotions. It shows this urgent, almost automatic need to create a narrative that fits, even if it means incorporating false information, especially when something challenges our expectations.
Okay, so we're constantly writing our own story. And the book argues most of these stories have a central theme.
A very central theme. I am good, or, competent, decent, deserving of good things. That's the bedrock premise for most people's life narrative.
And that premise can lead to some interesting interpretations of reality.
Absolutely. It drives how we see ourselves and the world. Take the case of Paul Frampton.
The physicist, right. What happened with him?
Highly accomplished physicist, brilliant guy, but he got completely duped by an international crime ring, ended up arrested in Argentina for smuggling drugs.
How does someone that intelligent fall for a scam like that?
Because his core story, I am brilliant and exceptional, warped his judgment. He got involved with someone online claiming to be a beautiful young model who wanted to marry him.
Okay, red flags already.
Huge red flags. Friends warned him it was obviously a scam. She was 33 years younger. He'd never met her in person.
So why did he ignore them?
He admitted later he had a huge ego. He actually said he thought he was cleverer than Newton.
Wow.
So in his mind, this incredibly accomplished, intelligent man, it seemed plausible at the time that this stunning woman would genuinely seek him out. His belief in his own specialness overrode all the warning signs.
His I am good or I am exceptional story made him vulnerable.
Exactly. It's a powerful example of what the book calls the imperial self.
The imperial self.
Yeah, this tendency to see ourselves and everything connected to us, our kids, our stuff, our country, as better than average. It's related to the endowment effect in economics.
Right, where we value something more just because it's ours.
Precisely. It's all part of maintaining that I am good narrative. It's a psychological defense mechanism.
But life isn't always neat. What happens when our actions don't line up with that I am good story? When we do something irrational or make a choice we regret?
That's where cognitive dissonance comes in. That uncomfortable, nagging feeling you get when your actions and beliefs are out of sync, when your life story suddenly doesn't quite make sense.
And we really hate that feeling, right? So we try to resolve it quickly.
Instantly, usually by rationalizing. We change our beliefs or attitudes to match our actions, often without even realizing it.
Is there research on this?
Oh yeah, classic studies. One famous one involved the ROTC during the Vietnam War draft.
Okay, ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps. Men joined hoping to get a better draft lottery number, right, to avoid combat.
Exactly. They were basically gambling years of their time in ROTC against the chance of being drafted. So researchers looked at what happened after the lottery numbers came out.
What did they find?
It's really counterintuitive. The men who got high lottery numbers, meaning they were safe, they never actually needed to be in ROTC, felt the most dissonance. Their commitment seemed pointless in hindsight.
So how do they resolve that feeling?
They convinced themselves that ROTC was incredibly valuable and rewarding. They had to believe it was a great experience to justify the unnecessary sacrifice they'd made.
They rationalized loving it because they didn't need it.
Exactly. And the guys who got low numbers, meaning ROTC actually might have saved them from the draft, felt their choice was justified. They didn't need to rationalize, and they generally reported disliking their time in the Corps.
Wow. So the rationalization itself was the payoff for the guys who made the bad bet.
Yes. It eased the dissonance.
And the book connects this to culture, suggesting Americans might experience more of this dissonance.
It does. It calls Americans the world champion of choices. There's such a strong emphasis on individual freedom, personal choice, and everything, especially huge life decisions like career or marriage.
And more choice means more potential for regret, more need to rationalize.
That's the idea. If you made the choice, the pressure is on you to justify it if it doesn't turn out perfectly. Contrast that with, say, more collectivist cultures.
Like India, mentioned in the book.
Right, where for something like marriage, it's still common for families or trusted elders to have significant input or even arrange the match.
And the book says those arranged marriages can be just as successful.
Often they are, statistically. Outsourcing that huge decision might actually reduce the individual burden of choice and the subsequent need for intense rationalization if things aren't perfect.
Which loops back to relationships. Benjamin Franklin's advice.
Keep your eyes wide open before marriage and half shut afterward.
Makes perfect psychological sense now.
It really does. Long-term commitment almost requires rationalization. You have to actively reframe your partner's flaws. Their messiness becomes carefree, not irresponsible.
You choose to see things in a positive light to maintain the relationship.
Nietzsche said something similar, that love involves seeing things most decidedly as they are not. You need that level of, well, positive illusion or rationalization to sustain commitment against the friction of daily life and dissonance.
Okay, so meaning is vital. Our brains constantly strive for it, tell stories, rationalize. How does the brain even know when meaning is under threat? Is there like a meaning alarm?
There sort of is, yeah. The book talks about the anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC. It's a part of the brain that acts like a conflict monitor or an alarm system.
And it fires off for what kind of threats?
All sorts of things that violate our sense of coherence or expectation. Physical pain, obviously, but also social rejection, feeling excluded.
Hurt feelings literally hurt neurologically.
Pretty much. And crucially, it also fires when things just don't make sense, when our meaning framework is challenged. It detects that deviation from the expected narrative.
That's fascinating. So the pain of a breakup and the confusion of something illogical triggers similar neural alarms?
That seems to be the case, which makes the research on painkillers really wild.
You mean like Tylenol?
Exactly. Acetaminophen. Studies have shown that taking Tylenol can actually dampen the activity in the ACC.
Get out.
Yeah. And it has measurable psychological effects. People taking it report fewer hurt feelings after being socially rejected.
Okay.
They show less anxiety when thinking about death.
Seriously?
And they even become less risk-averse, more willing to take financial gambles. It seems to literally dull that existential alarm signal.
Hang on. Is the takeaway here that we should all just pop Tylenol when we feel angsty?
No, definitely not the takeaway. It's more about highlighting the physical, neurological reality of these existential feelings. It shows how deeply wired our need for meaning and coherence is.
Right. It underscores the mechanism.
Exactly. And we experience a failure or glitch in that meaning system in a very specific, unsettling way, the feeling of the uncanny.
The uncanny valley, like creepy robots or CGI characters.
Precisely. The term comes from robotics, from Masahiro Mori. It's that feeling you get from something that's almost familiar, but just wrong. Like that CGI Tom Hanks in the Polar Express.
Yeah, ugh. Still gives me the creeps.
Right. It looks human, but it moves or emotes slightly off. That subtle violation triggers the uncanny feeling because it messes with our fundamental categories, our meaning framework. It signals something is deeply wrong with our map of reality.
Okay, so our brains are wired for meaning. They freak out when it's threatened. But we're not just victims here, right? The book offers ways to actively build meaning.
Absolutely. We have strategies. We can fight back against the anxiety and build resilience. One powerful tool is nostalgia.
Nostalgia, like thinking about the good old days.
Sort of. It acts like a meaning bank account. When people feel lonely or bored, when meaning feels low, they naturally turn to nostalgic memories.
What kind of memories work best?
Often social ones, parties, family gatherings, cultural rituals, or memories of overcoming challenges, stories with a redemption arc. Reflecting on these boosts feelings of social connection, self-continuity, and overall meaning.
So, mining our past for meaning. What about finding purpose in the present or future?
That's crucial. The classic example here is Viktor Frankl.
The psychiatrist who survived Auschwitz.
Yes, the founder of logotherapy. He wrote powerfully about how, even in the horrific conditions of the concentration camps, having a purpose sustained him. For him, it was the determination to survive so he could rewrite his book manuscript, which had been confiscated.
Man's search for meaning.
That's the one. It really illustrates Nietzsche's famous line, "He who has a why to live for can bear with almost any how." Purpose is a powerful buffer against suffering.
And we can actively shape our life story to emphasize purpose.
Yes, using narrative structures. The book mentions Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
The classic story template. Protagonist, quest, allies, challenges.
Right. Protagonist, a shift or call to adventure, a quest, allies, challenges, transformation, and finally, a legacy. Research shows that if you guide people to frame their own life experiences using this metaphorical structure,
Seeing their struggles as challenges on a quest.
exactly, they report significantly higher levels of meaning, well-being, and flourishing. It reframes adversity into a meaningful narrative arc.
Okay, so we can look back with nostalgia, find purpose like Frankl, structure our story like a hero. What about finding meaning outside ourselves?
Self-transcendence, moving beyond our own immediate worries and ego. The book highlights a few key pathways.
Like what?
First, simply getting out into nature. Mountains, oceans, forests, experiences of awe in nature are incredibly reliable meaning boosters.
Nietzsche again. Never trust a thought that occurs to you indoors.
Haha, right. Second, spiritual practices and meditation. These offer structure, ritual, often community, and a connection to something larger than the self.
And the third one is maybe more contemporary.
Yeah, the psychedelic renaissance. Research on substances like psilocybin, the active compound in magic mushrooms.
What are they finding?
Under controlled conditions, these experiences can be profoundly meaningful. In one study, about 2/3 of participants rated their psilocybin experience as among the top 5 most meaningful experiences of their entire lives.
All 5. Why?
It seems to induce powerful feelings of interconnectedness, unity, awe, classic mystical-type experiences that dissolve the ego temporarily and connect people to a sense of the transcendent.
So nature, spirituality, maybe even psychedelics carefully used.
Yeah.
These are all ways to push beyond the self and find broader meaning.
Exactly. They shift your perspective. And the overall message is that meaning isn't something you just passively find, like a lost wallet.
Especially not now.
Right. Especially in this modern age where the old supports are weaker, meaning is something you have to actively build, cultivate, and protect.
So wrapping this up, if you're listening and feeling some of this modern anxiety, the sense of meaninglessness, the takeaway isn't despair, it's action.
Right. The book really emphasizes agency. Audit your life. Where are the cracks in those foundations? Relationships, community, work, spirituality.
And then actively work to shore them up, reconnect, get involved, find purpose in your work or outside it, maybe explore spiritual practices.
And consciously craft your life narrative. Focus on coherence, purpose, growth, maybe even that hero's journey structure.
It requires deliberate effort because the default cultural settings aren't providing meaning like they used to.
Precisely. Which brings us to a final, maybe provocative thought, drawing on the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard.
Okay.
Kierkegaard knew that science and reason can't definitively prove the universe has inherent meaning. That ultimate question might always be beyond our grasp.
The absurd remains.
It does. But Kierkegaard argued that choosing to believe life is meaningful, choosing to see purpose and connection and awe, even without absolute proof, that act itself brings psychological benefits. He called it the leap of faith.
So it's not about certainty, it's about the choice to live as if life is meaningful.
That's the idea. Believing in meaning, actively seeking it, is associated with better well-being, regardless of whether the universe objectively validates it. So the question the book leaves you with is, in this uncertain age, are you willing to take that leap toward a meaningful life?